The morning started like any other day on the exploration ship Ranger. Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair, drinking coffee from his favorite mug. The mug had a picture of Earth on it, something that always made him smile when he was far from home. Around him, his crew worked quietly at their stations. The soft hum of the ship's engines filled the bridge. Lieutenant Amy Brooks was checking the ship's weapons systems. She did this every morning, even though they rarely used them. Exploration ships were not meant for fighting. They were built to find new worlds and meet new people. Still, Amy believed in being ready for anything. In the engine room below, Sergeant Pete Collins was fixing a small problem with the power generator. Pete loved machines. He could fix almost anything with the right tools and enough time. He whistled while he worked, a happy tune his father had taught him. Years ago, Dr. Lisa Carter was in the medical bay, organizing her supplies. She checked each bottle and each tool. Lisa knew that in space, being prepared could mean the difference between life and death. She had saved many lives during their 3 years of exploration. The Ranger was on patrol near the outer edge of human space. They were looking for new planets that might be good for colonies. It was quiet work, but important. Jake liked it. He'd seen enough war in his younger days. Now he preferred the peace of exploration. The ship's computer suddenly made a beeping sound. Jake looked at his screen. There was an incoming message from somewhere far away. The computer was trying to translate it from an unknown language. Captain Amy called out from her station. "We're getting a signal. It's not from any human ship." Jake set down his coffee mug, put it on the main screen. The screen flickered and then showed strange symbols. The computer worked to change them into English words. Slowly a message appeared. "This is Elder Zephyr of the Cathari people on Velith Prime. We send this message to all who can hear us. Our world is under attack. The Vrakan Empire has come to destroy us. We have heard stories of the brave Deathworlders from Terra, if any. Humans can hear this. Please help us. You're a peaceful people. We have never hurt anyone. But the Vrakan are killing us. They want to take our world and make us slaves. Please, if there is any hope, come to Veloth Prime. We are running out of time." The bridge became very quiet. Jake stared at the message. He had never heard of the Cathari or the Vrakan, but the fear in those words was real. "Amy, can you get more information about this signal?" Amy's fingers moved quickly over her control panel. "It came from the Veloth system, about 12 light years from here. The signal is weak. I think they're using emergency power." Pete's voice came through the ship's communication system. "Captain, I heard that message down here. Did they really call us Deathworlders?" Jake almost smiled at that. Humans had earned that name from other alien species they had met. Earth was a dangerous planet compared to most worlds. Humans had to be tough to survive there. Other aliens thought humans were crazy for living on a world with so many ways to die. "Lisa, come to the bridge," Jake said into his communicator. Dr. Carter arrived quickly. She had heard the message too. "Captain, if they're really under attack, people are dying right now." Jake nodded. He looked around at his crew. These were good people. They had been together for 3 years. They trusted each other completely. "Computer, show me everything we know about the Velith system." The main screen changed to show a star map. Velith Prime was a small blue-green world orbiting a yellow sun. The computer had little information about it. No human ship had ever visited there. Captain Amy said quietly. "We're just an exploration ship. We have light weapons and good shields, but we're not built for war. If there really is an empire attacking these people, what can we do?" Jake was quiet for a long moment. He thought about his orders. The Ranger was supposed to stay in human space. They were supposed to avoid getting involved in alien conflicts. But he also thought about the fear he had heard in that message. "Pete, how long would it take to get to Velith Prime?" "Maximum speed, about 18 hours, Captain." "And our weapons?" Amy checked her screens. "We have plasma cannons and missile tubes, enough to fight off pirates or defend ourselves. But against a whole fleet." She didn't finish the sentence. Lisa stepped forward. "Captain, we can't just ignore this. They asked for help. They called us by name." Jake stood up from his chair. He walked to the big window that showed the stars. Somewhere out there, people were dying. Maybe they were already dead. Maybe it was too late. But maybe it wasn't. Computer, record a message to Earth Command, Jake said. Recording, Captain. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the USS Ranger. We have received a distress call from the Kethari people on Velith Prime. They are under attack by something called the Vraken Empire. I am taking my ship to investigate and provide assistance if possible. I know this is outside our mission parameters, but I cannot ignore a cry for help. Morrison out. He turned to face his crew. I'm not ordering anyone to come with me. Could be dangerous. Very dangerous. Anyone who wants to can take a shuttle back to the nearest human station. Ami stood up first. I'm with you, Captain. Pete's voice came through the speakers. Where the captain goes, I go? Lisa nodded. Those people need a doctor. I'm staying. Jake felt proud of his crew. These were the kind of people that made humanity special. They would risk their lives for. Strangers. All right then. Amy, set course for Velith Prime. Maximum speed. Course set, Captain. The stars outside changed as the Ranger jumped into hyperspace. They were now racing toward a world they had never seen to help people they had never met, against an enemy they knew nothing about. Jake picked up his coffee mug and took a sip. It was cold now, but he didn't care. 18 hours they would. Find out what it really meant to be called Deathworlders. The Ranger dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Velith system. What Jake and his crew saw made their hearts sink. The beautiful blue-green planet they had seen on the star map was now surrounded by hundreds of dark ships. Explosions lit up the planet's surface like deadly fireworks. My God, Amy whispered from her station. There are so many of them. Jake counted at least 300 enemy ships. They were big and black, with sharp edges that made them look like flying weapons. Red beams of energy shot down from the ships to the planet below. Where the beams hit, the surface turned bright orange and then black. Pete, keep us hidden behind this asteroid field. Use minimum power. Already on it, Captain. Silent. Dr. Carter stared at the main screen. Those poor people? How many are down there? Jake checked the computer's estimate. About 2 billion Kethari live on that planet, or lived. Couldn't finish the thought. Amy was scanning the enemy ships with the Ranger's sensors. Captain, I'm reading their ship designs. These Raken vessels are armed with plasma cannons. That can melt rock. Their shields are very strong. Each one of those big ships could destroy a human city. What about their numbers? I count 312 ships total. 50 of them are huge warships. The rest are smaller attack craft and support vessels. Jake felt the weight of the situation. A single exploration ship against more than 300 warships. It seemed impossible. Suddenly, the ship's communication system crackled to life. A weak signal was trying to reach them. Unknown ship, please respond. This is Commander Thesis of the Kethari Defense Force. Are you human? Jake looked at his crew. Amy nodded and opened a secure channel. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human ship Ranger. We received your distress call. The voice on the other end sounded like it was crying with relief. Humans. The Deathworlders came. Elder Zephyr said, you might answer our call, but we feared it was too late. Commander Thesis, what is your situation? Very bad, Captain Morrison. Then Vraken attacked us 3 days ago. They destroyed our orbital defense platforms in the first hour. Our ground forces are fighting, but we cannot stop them. They have weapons we have never seen before. How many of your people are still alive? We estimate 1 billion Kethari are still alive, but the number drops every hour. The Varaquan are not just conquering us. They are wiping out entire cities. They want to break our spirit before they make the survivors into slaves. Jake closed his eyes. 1 billion people dying. While he watched, Commander, can you meet with us secretly? We need to understand your enemy before we can help. Yes. There is a small moon on the far side of our system. El Velith Minor. We have a hidden base there. Can you come? We'll be there in 2 hours. Stay strong. Jake cut the communication and turned to his crew. You heard him? 2 hours to get to that. Moon, Amy, plot a course that keeps us away from the Vraken fleet. While Amy worked on navigation, Pete came up from the engine room. His face was serious. Captain, I've been thinking about our weapons. We have good plasma cannons, but they're designed for fighting one or two ships, not hundreds. What are you suggesting? I want to modify our systems, turn this exploration ship into something more dangerous. It will take time, but I have ideas. Lisa looked up from her medical station. What kind of ideas? Pete smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. Humans are good at making things that weren't meant to be weapons into weapons. Our mining lasers, our cargo bay, even our emergency systems. Everything on this ship can hurt someone if we use it right. Jake nodded. Do it.
Oh.
Do you need time and help? Lisa, I need you to help me with the medical bay supplies. Some of those chemicals can be very dangerous if mixed wrong. Dr. Carter understood immediately. You want to make explosives, among other things. Amy, can you help me with the navigation computer? I want to turn our mapping system into a targeting system, Amy grinned. Now you're talking my language. The Ranger reached Velith Minor without being detected. The small moon was covered in ice, but deep underground was a hidden Cathari base. Commander Thisses met them in a small shuttle. He was tall and thin, with blue skin and large, gentle eyes. He looked nothing like a warrior. Captain Morrison, I cannot tell you how grateful we are that you came. Jake shook the alien's hand. The eyes seemed surprised by the firm human grip. Tell me about the Vraken. What are we really facing? Commander Thesis led them to a control room. Deep in the moon base, their Cathari worked at computers, monitoring the destruction of their homeworld. The Verken are a military empire, conquer worlds for resources and slaves. They have been expanding for 50 years. No one has ever stopped them. He showed them images on a large screen. The Vraken were big, reptile-like creatures with thick armor-like skin. They carried weapons that were bigger than most humans. Their leader is Warprime Skirx. He is their greatest general. He has conquered 23 worlds. He enjoys causing fear. Amy studied the images. What about their tactics? They always use the same plan. First, they destroy all orbital defenses. Then they bomb cities from space until the people surrender. Finally, they land troops to collect slaves and resources. Jake was quiet for a moment. Commander, your people are peaceful, aren't they? Yes. We have never fought a real war. We had defense forces, but they were small. We believed talking was better than fighting. It's going to change. Pete, how long do you need to modify our ship? 6 hours minimum. 8 hours to do it right? You have 4 hours. Lisa, I need you to prepare medical supplies for combat. Real combat. Dr. Carter nodded grimly. She had treated battle wounds before. Jake turned back to Commander Thesis. I need to ask you something difficult. Are your people willing to fight back? Really fight? The Cathari commander's gentle eyes became hard. Captain, they are killing our children. Yes, we will fight, but we don't know how. Then we'll teach. You, Amy, I need you to study those Vraken ships. Find their weak points. Everyone else, we have for hours to turn a peaceful exploration mission into a war. As his crew scattered to their tasks, Jake looked out at the stars. Somewhere up there, 300 warships were destroying a civilization. In a few hours, they would learn what one angry human ship could do. The Cathari had called for help from the Deathworlders. Now, they were about to find out why humans had earned that name. 4 hours later, the Ranger was no longer just an exploration ship. Pete had worked like a man possessed, turning peaceful equipment into weapons of war. The mining lasers were now linked to the weapon systems. Cargo bay doors had been reinforced and fitted with explosive bolts. Even the emergency oxygen tanks had been turned into makeshift missiles. Jake stood on the bridge, looking at his transformed ship. Amy had found weak points in the Vraken ships by studying their design. Lisa had prepared combat medical supplies and mixed chemicals that could eat through metal armor. They were as ready as they could be. Captain Commander, Thesis said through the communication system, our remaining forces are ready to help however they can. Jake nodded. Stay hidden until I give the signal. This first part is going to be very dangerous. He turned to his crew. Everyone ready? Amy checked her weapons one last time. All systems green, Captain. Pete grinned from his engineering station. She's not pretty anymore, but she hurt someone. Lisa secured her medical bay, ready to patch us up when this goes bad. Jake took a deep breath. Computer, open a channel to all Vraken ships. All frequencies. The computer beeped. Channel open, Captain. Jake began speaking in perfect Vraken language. He had spent the last 4 hours learning it from the Kethari computer files. The words sounded harsh and angry, just like the species that spoke them. Attention, Vraken fleet. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Human Ship Ranger. I am speaking for all Deathworlders of Terra. You have attacked innocent people. You have 10 minutes to leave this system or face the consequences. Silence filled the communication channel for a long moment. Then harsh laughter came through the speakers. A human ship? One tiny vessel against the might of the Vraken Empire? This is War Prime Scarix. You amuse me, little human. How did you even learn our language? Jake smiled coldly. We learned it so we could understand your screams when we destroy you. More laughter came from the Vraken commander. You speak big words for someone about to die. Show me what one human ship can do against 300 Vraken warships. As you wish. Jake cut the communication and turned to Amy. Take us in, full speed toward their flagship. The Ranger shot out from behind the moon like a bullet. The Vraken ships immediately began firing at them. Red plasma beams lit up space around the small human vessel. Shields holding, Amy reported. Her hands flying over the controls. They won't last long against this much firepower. Watch the enemy flagship grow larger on the screen. It was huge, 10 times the size of the Ranger. Its hull was covered in weapon ports and armor. Plating, Pete, are you ready? Ready as I'll ever be, Captain. It's going to hurt. Amy rammed that flagship. Full power to forward shields. Amy stared at him. Captain, that will destroy us too. Baby, but it will definitely destroy them. Do it. The Ranger accelerated toward the Vraken flagship. The enemy ship tried to turn away, but it was too big and slow. Jake's ship hit the massive vessel at nearly the speed of light. The impact was like a bomb going off. The Ranger's reinforced hull punched through the flagship's shields and armor like a spear through paper. Emergency alarms screamed throughout both ships. Jake felt his bones rattle from the crash, but he was still alive. Somehow, Pete's modifications had worked. The Ranger was buried deep inside the enemy ship, but her hull was still intact. Report, Jake shouted over the noise. We're inside their ship, Amy called back, blood running from a cut on her forehead. Their main reactor is just 50 meters. From us, Pete's voice came through the communication system, but it sounded weak. Captain, I'm trapped in engineering, but the ship's systems are still working. I can give you power. Lisa, go help Pete. Amy with me. We're going to show these Vraken what humans do when they're angry. Jake grabbed a plasma rifle from the emergency weapons locker. Amy took another rifle and extra ammunition. On their combat suits and opened the airlock, the inside of the Vraken ship was dark and filled with smoke. Emergency lights flashed red. Jake could hear the sound of Vraken soldiers running toward them. Remember, Jake said to Amy, we're not trying to win, we're trying to scare them.
Ow.
The first group of Vraken soldiers came around a corner. They were big, almost twice the size of humans, with thick reptile skin and heavy armor they carried. Weapons that could blow holes in walls, but they had never fought humans before. Jake and Amy moved like dancers, fast and smooth. The Vraken were strong, but they were slow. Human reflexes, developed on a dangerous world, were much quicker. Amy shot 3 Vraken soldiers before they could even aim their weapons. Jake rolled under the gunfire of 2 more and came up shooting. His plasma shots hit weak points in there. Armor that Amy had identified. More Vraken came running. Jake and Amy split up, using the ship's corridors like a maze. The enemy soldiers were too big to move quickly through the tight spaces, but humans could slip through easily. Control room. Is this way? Amy said, checking her scanner. They fought their way through the ship. Every corridor brought more Vraken soldiers. But something strange was happening. The enemy was becoming afraid. Jake heard them talking to each other in their own language. They were calling humans void demons and death spirits. The Vraken had expected to fight normal aliens, not creatures from a death world. Amy, do you hear that? They're scared, Captain. They've never seen anything like us. Jake smiled grimly. Humans had been the top predators on Earth for thousands of years. Now the Vraken were learning why. They reached the ship's control room. Inside, Vraken officers were trying to coordinate the battle. When Jake and Amy burst through the door, aliens reached for their weapons. Jake shot the first officer before he could draw his gun. Amy disabled the ship's communication system with precise shots. In 30 seconds, the flagship could no longer command the fleet, but then more alarms began sounding. Through the control room windows, Jake could see something that made his heart race. The other Vraken ships were turning their weapons on their own flagship. They're going to destroy us along with their own ship, Amy said. Jake grabbed the flagship's communication system. This is Captain Morrison to all Vraken ships. Your flagship is under human control. We have your War Prime Scarix as our prisoner. It was a lie, but the Vraken didn't know that. The enemy ships stopped firing. War Prime Scarix is dead, Jake continued. Your fleet is now commanded by humans. Any ship that tries to attack us will be destroyed by our hidden fleet. Another lie, but fear was making the Vraken believe it. Through the control room windows, Jake could see some of the smaller Vraken ships beginning to move away from the planet. His plan was working. One human ship was making an entire fleet. Retreat through fear alone. Commander Thesis, Jake said into his communicator. Now would be a good time for your people to attack the remaining Vraken ground forces. Already on it, Captain. Our people are fighting back. The Vraken are confused and scared. They don't understand what's happening. Jake looked at Amy. They were both covered in blood and exhausted, but they were winning. Amy, send a message to the rest of the Vraken fleet. Tell them that this is what happens when you attack people under human protection. As Amy sent the message, Jake watched more enemy ships leave the system. The Vraken Empire had come to conquer a peaceful world. Instead, they had met humanity's answer to tyranny. The Deathworlders had kept their promise. The news of the human attack spread through the Vraken fleet like fire. Jake's trick had worked too well. Many smaller ships were leaving the system, but the bigger warships were getting angry instead of scared. War Prime Scarix was not dead, and he was very upset. Jake and Amy were still trapped inside the enemy flagship when the ship's main communication system came alive. A deep, angry voice filled the control room. Humans, you dare to lie about killing Scarix? You will learn why. The Vraken Empire has never been defeated. Through the control room windows, Jake saw something that made his blood run cold. A massive ship was approaching from the far side of the fleet. It was twice the size of the flagship they were on, painted blood red and covered in more weapons than Jake had ever seen. That must be Scarix's personal command ship, Amy said. Captain, we need to get out of here. But before they could move, the red ship began launching smaller vessels. These were not normal Vraken fighters. They were sleek and fast, painted with skull symbols. Jake's communicator crackled. Captain Morrison, this is Commander Thesis. We are detecting new enemy ships. They are different from the others. What do you mean different?
Ow.
Our sensors show they are much better armed and faster. The Cathari who escaped from other conquered worlds told us stories about these ships. They are called Crimson Hunters. They are Scarix's personal death squad. Jake felt his heart sink. Just when things were going well, the enemy had brought in their best fighters. The Crimson Hunter ships began attacking the Vraken vessels that were trying to retreat. Red energy beams cut through their hulls like knives through paper. The message was clear. No one was allowed to leave. Amy, we need to get back to our ship. This fight just got much harder. They fought their way back through the flagship's corridors. More Vraken soldiers tried to stop them, but now Jake and Amy moved with desperate speed. They had learned the ship's layout during their first attack. When they reached the Ranger, they found Pete and Lisa working frantically to repair damage from the crash. Captain, Pete called out, his face covered in grease and sweat. The good news is our ship still works. The bad news is we're stuck inside their hull. I need at least an hour to cut us free. We don't have an hour. Those red ships out there are elite troops. Lisa looked up from her medical station. Hey, Pete, What if we don't try to get the ship out? What if we use it as a weapon from inside? Pete's eyes lit up. You mean turn our reactor into a bomb? That's exactly what I mean. Jake shook his head. That would kill us too. Maybe not, Pete said, thinking quickly. I could set it to overload slowly. Give us time to escape in the emergency pods. Before Jake could answer, the ship shook violently. Something was cutting through the flagship's hull near them. The Crimson Hunters are boarding this ship, Amy reported from her scanner. They're coming right for us. Jake made his decision. Pete, start the reactor overload. Set it for 30 minutes. That should give us time to escape and take this whole ship with us. What about the Kethari? They still need our help. Jake smiled. Grimly, we're going to give them more help than they know what to do with. Lisa, remember those medical supplies you turned into explosives? Of course, I want you to make more. A lot more. Amy, can you contact Commander Thesis? Already trying, Captain? The communication system crackled to life. Captain Morrison, the situation is getting worse. The red ships are attacking our hidden bases. They seem to know where we are. Commander, I need your people to do something. Very dangerous. I'm going to teach you how to fight like humans. What do you mean humans don't just fight with weapons? We fight with our minds. We use fear and surprise. We make our enemies think we are everywhere at once. Jake quickly explained his plan to the Kethari commander. It was risky and would require the peaceful aliens to do things they had never done before. Can your people handle that? Jake asked. There was silence for a moment. Then Commander Thesis spoke, and his voice was different. Harder, Captain. They killed my family yesterday. But my people are ready to learn. While Pete worked on the reactor, Jake and his crew prepared to abandon their ship. But first, they had work to do. Lisa finished making her explosives. Amy downloaded all the information from the Vraken ship's computers. Jake recorded a message to send to Earth. Then the Crimson Hunters found them. The elite Vraken soldiers were different from the others. They were smaller but faster. Their armor was better. Their weapons were more advanced. And they moved like they knew how to fight. The first hunter came through the wall using a cutting beam. Jake shot at it, but his plasma bolt bounced off its shield. The creature returned fire with a weapon that turned the wall behind Jake into melted metal. These things are tough, Amy shouted, diving for cover. Then we don't fight them fair. Jake replied. He grabbed one of Lisa's explosive devices and threw it at the hunter. The explosion knocked the creature down, but didn't kill it. However, it did damage its shield generator. Amy's next shot hit the hunter in the chest. This time, the plasma bolt went through. The elite soldier fell, but more were coming. Pete, how much time? 20 minutes until reactor overload? And his crew fought their way to the emergency escape pods. The Crimson Hunters were good, but they had never fought humans before. They expected normal tactics from normal aliens. Instead, Jake used the ship's own systems against them. Lisa had taught him which chemicals would eat through Vraken armor. Amy showed him how to overload the ship's lights to blind the hunters. Pete rigged the doors to explode when the enemies tried to open them. They reached the escape pods just as Commander Thesis contacted them again. Captain Morrison, your plan is working. We are attacking Vraken ground forces all over the planet. They don't know where the attacks are coming from, but the red ships are still hunting our people. Climbed into his escape pod. Commander, in 15 minutes, this flagship is going to explode. When it does, I want your people to attack everything at once. Make the Vraken think there are human ships everywhere. Understood. And Captain, thank you for teaching us how to be warriors. The escape pods launched from the doomed flagship. Jake watched through the small window as they flew away from the massive Vraken ship. In the distance, he could see Velith Prime. The planet was still burning, but not as much as before. Then Pete's bomb went off. The explosion was beautiful and terrible. The flagship simply disappeared in a ball of white light. The shockwave destroyed 2 nearby Vraken cruisers and damaged several others. But more importantly, it sent a message to every Vraken in the system. The humans were not just fighting to win. They were willing to die to protect the innocent. Jake's escape pod was picked up by a Cathari rescue ship. As they flew toward the hidden moon base, he could see the battle changing. Cathari fighters were attacking Vrakan ships using human tactics. They hit fast and disappeared. They used tricks and traps. The peaceful plant eaters were learning to be predators. But Jake knew the real fight was just beginning. War Prime Scarix was still alive, and he was very angry. The Crimson Hunters were regrouping. The Vrakan Empire had decided that this little system was worth a full war. As Jake's pod docked with the rescue ship, he smiled. The Vrakan wanted a war with Deathworlders. They were about to get one. War Prime Scarix stood on the bridge of his red command ship and watched his flagship burn. The human explosion had been visible from across the entire system. 300 years of conquest, and no one had ever dared to do something so insane. "Find me those humans," he growled to his officers. "I want them alive so I can kill them slowly." But Jake Morrison was not done fighting. On the hidden moon base, he and Commander Theses were planning the final attack. The Cathari had learned quickly. In just a few hours, they had gone from peaceful scientists to effective guerrilla fighters. "The Vrakan are confused, Commander," Theses reported. "Our people are hitting them all over the planet. They think there are human ships everywhere." Jake smiled. "Good. Fear is our best weapon now. What about Scarx's command ship?" "It's moving toward the planet. Our scouts think he plans to land and take control of the ground battle himself." Amy looked up from her computer. "Captain, I've been studying that red ship. It's heavily armored, but I found something interesting. It has a weakness." She showed Jake the scans on her screen. "See this section? It's where they keep their main computer core. If we could get inside and destroy it, the whole ship would be paralyzed." Pete shook his head. "That ship has 1,000 Crimson Hunters on it. How do we get inside?" Lisa had been very quiet since they escaped the flagship. Now she spoke up. "We don't sneak in. Let them capture us." Everyone stared at her. "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "Think about it. Skurix wants us alive. We surrender. He'll bring us to his ship. Then we attack from the inside." Jake thought about the plan. It was crazy and dangerous. But crazy and dangerous seemed to work against the Vrakan. "It could work," Amy said slowly. "But once we're on that ship, there's no escape. It would be a one-way mission." At his crew, these people had followed him across space to help strangers. They had risked everything for people they had never met. Now he was asking them to risk their lives one more time. "I won't order anyone to do this," he said quietly. Pete stood up first. "Where you go, we go, Captain." Amy nodded. "We started this together. We finish it together." Lisa smiled. "Someone has to patch you all up when this goes wrong, Commander." Dizes stepped forward, "And I'm coming with you. My people need to see that their leaders are willing to fight." 2 hours later, a small Cathari shuttle approached Scarix's command ship. The shuttle was broadcasting a surrender message. "Great War Prime Scarix," the message said. "We are the humans who destroyed your flagship. We surrender ourselves to your mercy. We ask only that you spare the Cathari people." The red ship's weapons locked onto the shuttle, but they did not fire. Jake could imagine Scarix's excitement. The War Prime had probably never captured humans before. "Incoming transmission," Amy reported. Scarix's voice filled the shuttle. It was deep and full of hate. "So the mighty Deathworlders surrender? How disappointing. I expected more from the species that destroyed my flagship."
Activated the
communication system. "We came to help the Cathari. Now that your attention is on us, they will be safe." Harsh laughter came through the speakers. "Safe. I will make you watch as I burn their world to ash, and I will take you back to the Empire as trophies." The shuttle was pulled into the command ship's docking bay by a tractor beam. Jake and his team were surrounded by Crimson Hunters the moment they stepped out. The elite soldiers were even more impressive up close. Their red armor gleamed under the ship's lights. Scarix himself came to greet them. He was huge, even for a Vrakan. Scales were black as space, and his eyes burned with cruel intelligence. "The famous humans," he said, looking down at them. "You are smaller than I expected." Jake looked up at the alien warlord. "Size isn't everything. Your flagship learned that." Scarix backhanded Jake across the face. The blow would have killed a normal alien, but Jake just spit blood and smiled. Tough little creatures, Scarix mused. No wonder the galaxy fears you. But fear only works if you can back it up. Here on my ship, you are helpless. The prisoners were marched through the ship toward the detention cells. But Jake was studying everything they passed: guard positions, weapon storage, computer terminals. Amy was doing the same thing. Pete was looking at the ship's mechanical systems. Lisa was watching the crew. They were placed in a cell near the ship's center. As soon as the guards left, Jake spoke quietly. "Pete, can you break us out of here?" Pete examined the cell door. "Give me 10 minutes with Lisa's medical tools." While Pete worked, Amy used her scanner to map the ship around them. The computer core is 3 levels up and 50 meters forward. How many guards? At least 20 Crimson Hunters, plus automated defenses? Lisa was preparing her remaining explosives. "I can make enough bombs to cause serious damage, but we'll only get one chance." Commander Lisa's looked worried. "What if this doesn't work?" Jake checked his weapons. "Then we die fighting, but we take as many of them with us as possible." Pete finished with the door lock. "Ready, Captain?" They moved through the ship like ghosts. Jake had learned something important during their first battle. The Vrekin were used to fighting big, slow enemies. They had never faced opponents who could move quickly through tight spaces. The first group of guards never saw them coming. Amy's plasma rifle took down to hunters before they could sound an alarm. Jake and Commander Lisa's disabled the others with precise shots. They fought their way toward the computer core. But the alarm eventually sounded. Now the entire ship knew they were free. "This way," Pete shouted, leading them through a maintenance tunnel. They reached the computer core just as reinforcements arrived. Lisa threw her explosives at the massive computers while Jake and Amy held off the Crimson Hunters. The explosions were deafening. Sparks and smoke filled the air. The ship's lights flickered and died. Core destroyed. Lisa shouted over the noise. All around them, the ship began shutting down. Without its computer brain, the massive vessel was blind and helpless. But they were trapped. More hunters were coming from every direction. Captain Amy said quietly, "I don't think we're getting out of this one." Jake reloaded his weapon. "Then we make it count." Just then, the ship shook violently. Something was attacking from outside. Commander Thesis laughed with joy. "The Kethari fleet. They followed us here." Through a nearby window, Jake could see dozens of Kethari ships attacking the helpless command vessel. The peaceful aliens had become warriors in truth. Scarix's voice echoed through the ship's emergency speakers. "You think you have one, humans? Even if you destroy my ship, the Empire will send more fleets. The Vraken are endless." Jake found a working communication panel and spoke to the entire ship. "Listen carefully, Vraken. You came here to conquer a peaceful world. Instead, you found humanity. We are the species that crawled out of death itself. We are the children of a world that tried to kill us every day. We do not forgive those who hurt the innocent." He paused, then continued. "Tell your empire this. Any species under human protection is off limits. Any world that asks for our help will get it. The age of easy conquest is over." The red ship began breaking apart under the Kethari attack. Emergency pods launched in all directions. Jake and his team reached their own escape pod just as the command ship exploded. As they flew toward the planet, Jake could see the remaining Vraken fleet fleeing the system. The mighty Empire that had never been defeated was running from one human crew and their new alien friends. Commander Thesis activated the communication system. "All Kethari forces, this is your commander. The invaders are defeated. Begin rescue operations immediately." Jake watched Veloth Prime grow larger in the pod's window. The planet was damaged, but not destroyed. Billions of Kethari had survived because 4 humans had refused to ignore a cry for help. 6 months later, Jake stood in the rebuilt capital city of Veloth Prime. He was wearing his dress, uniform, and feeling uncomfortable about all the attention. The Kethari had insisted on holding a ceremony to honor the humans who had saved their world. Elder Zephyr, the leader who had sent the original distress call, stepped forward with a gift. It was a small crystal that glowed with soft blue light. is a memory stone, the elder explained. It contains the story of what happened here. We will send copies to every world in the galaxy, so all will know that humans protect the innocent. Jake accepted the gift. We just did what anyone should. Do? Elder Zephyr smiled. That is why you are called Deathworlders, Captain Morrison. Not because you bring death, but because you face it without fear to protect others. As Jake looked out at the celebrating crowds, he knew the galaxy had changed. The Vrakan Empire was broken. Other species now knew that humans would answer. Calls for help. The age of easy conquest was indeed over. The Deathworlders had kept their promise, and the universe was a safer place for it.